Hello one and all, I am Games and welcome to the Afterthought, a show where I just review games basically. Today I'm looking at Dungelot, Shattered Lands, and this game is brought to you by Red Winter Software, which I believe is an iOS developer mainly, but this is the developer's first foray into the Steam marketplace, and the developer is published by... Dungelot is published by TinyBuild, which is known for games such as Party Hard, Speedrunners, and most recently Punch Club, to just name a few. And it's currently retailing for $5.94 during its first week sale till February the 25th, and its normal price is $6.99 if you've missed that. Basically, I've played 2 hours of this game. Normally, I like to have a full review of a really long-winded full play of the game during a review. But in this case, I feel like I've really, harnessed the gameplay loop, and it only seems to be getting better as I go along. Really, I've only got a few little minor niggles, problems about the game. Like, nothing serious. As far as the options go, obviously it's a bit barren, but it's in a 2D game, I don't mind too much. It'd be nice to see a few, effects relating to the resolution and such. I mean, obviously you've got the outside menu for that, but, it'd be nice to have, some more graphic-based effects. Just for quality of life, like particle effects and such. It's nice to see. Let's play Vampire. The Vampire is quite fun. It has some really cool skills to it. Basically, to describe the system, you have one of 4 characters to pick from. Each one is locked to an act, except for the first one, which is Paladin, which you unlock from the beginning. You basically got your passive skills, which act without you needing to use them. Then you've got your active skills, which currently I've got 2 unlocked. I think that you'll probably get more later on, so that's cool to see. And these are able to be used based on it when you collect a scroll. The scrolls give you one use act of the skill it's linked to. And then you've got your gear, which, you can upgrade as you proceed through the game. So I've got up to Act 2, so I've got a reasonable way, I would say. And basically, the story, there's a bit of back and forth between the bosses and different characters throughout the game. But it seems a lot more lore-based, and, there's not really anything outside of that, to be honest. But, I'm not too worried about that, because even though it's a bit story-like sometimes, the game's a lot more focused on the mechanics of the game, which is totally fine by me. As far as the mechanics of the game touts itself as being a roguelike RPG, I believe, and for me that almost feels like it doesn't ring true as much as it seems a lot more like a dungeon crawler to me, based on how the gameplay loop acts. It doesn't really fall into a lot of the tropes what a roguelike would, and that's mainly why I think it's kind of been a bit mislabeled in that regard, but you'll see that in a minute. So as far as the game itself, you have this mansion where you can basically buy upgrades, which are permanent effects. Like, for instance, I've got a increase all heroes' HP by 10, which will carry over throughout the whole, all acts of the game and all dungeons. You also have your armory, which will allow you to take a look at potential weapons you want to buy or armor. So, you can always buy more later on. So there's a lot of stuff you can buy, which, are more permanent based. Everything's permanent, really. The only thing is your progress. If I failed at around 11, I've got to go back from 0 and do the whole run again. But for me, that doesn't really seem so much as a permadeath state, as more of a just you know, I failed the dungeon, you know, it's just a normal game over real loop, really. It's nothing like overly worrying about that. So basically the game plays out, and it touts itself like this on Steam as being it's almost like it has Minesweeper like mechanics, which, you know, I can see that. And it brings me on to my first point of, you know, what really impresses me about the game is how focused on the grid system it is. Now I hope I get to show you this, but, you know, even the minor things like a hole has a real impact on the gameplay, because we have a skill linked to the vampire where it teleports the enemy to a random spot. But I don't know if it is so much random, because if there are holes there, from my experience with the game on multiple occasions, it's just gone straight to the hole and it's fell down the hole basically. And so you feel like, you know, we're going to escape this one. So it feels like there's some real interesting environmental thought put into the game. Basically, as you can see, these red squares will appear, and these red squares will mean that you can't access, you know, any part of the level what has these red squares until you defeat the enemy which is adjacent to them. Now obviously I'm going to show off this teleport mechanic, I think, to this one, because it seems like we, as you can see, straight to the hole. So that's going to allow us to get straight over here without any problems relating to combat. Which is interesting to me, that combat is one of the things I want to talk about, because combat in this game feels really, you know, addictive, and every enemy, and I'm a big, like, proponent of wanting to see enemy variety, because I feel a lot of games just think, here's the tank, here's the ranged, you know, here's a lightweight grunt, with basically, you know, ticked all the boxes. But this game goes out of its way not only to make really interesting enemies which have this unique pool of attack and health, but each one seems to act with the environment in some way. Now I want to show you this one, because this is a good example. The sludge here, once we kill it, will create this poison cloud around these blocks, and basically if we was to tap these blocks, we'd take damage. So I'll example that there. So as you can see, we've weakened to one attack and we took some damage. So we'll show off this. Something I've noticed with the game is its UI is very centered around iOS, because that seems to be where its native platform is. Now because of this, some of the time you can feel like there's one too many clicks involved. Now this is more of a quality of life problem than anything else, but it'd be nice to see the UI changed a little to more represent a PC user's experience. That's an interesting one. I didn't actually come across that. There was another good example of another interesting enemy, where if I'd have played out more carefully, I could have, say, attacked this and then clicked some of these, which are not so adjacent to the enemy, so that basically if we click a block near him, sometimes we'll be forced to, just because we've clicked in a certain way that we've not got any blocks remaining and we need to find that key to get to the next floor, that it can basically attack us, and we can attack it because it has no health and it dies immediately once it's attacked. Now in that case we was lucky because we blocked it, you know, we blocked the attack. If we wanted to look at our stats, we can do so from just clicking on our character, which is nice. We'll just go over to the next floor now. As you can see, got another scroll, so that's going to be useful here. Now what we want to do is, as usual, we're going to try and find a hole. We ain't got any, so it would seem that we're going to engage in some more combat. Now if we'd have clicked that and we had the ability to, obviously we'd have found it a bit more easy to get around. I should have really hit with that. And obviously it's going to give us take a lot of damage off of us, because ooh, achievement. And it basically boils down to this feel of every enemy feels like it's, you know, it's got its own characteristics with it, and you have to play around them characteristics, which, you know, I've found to be a really interesting way of doing things. Now, you've also got a salvage mechanic where it will give you this charge bar, which, you know, you've got abilities linked to the charge bar. You won't necessarily use them actively, but the game will just use them when you're engaged in combat. It seems like it's at a whim, you know, it's chance-based, I believe, from what I've seen. But if it was to use them, you'd find that you have an extreme advantage. So let's see if we can bring that to the forefront. I want to show off this charge bar, if I can. Saying that, some armor is nice. Let's get a load of... Let's get one of these, because that'll increase our charge. In fact, we'll get two, just to make sure we can show it off. But as I say, you know, given its, you know, problems, given that sometimes it can feel like, you know, there's a few too many clicks involved, given that the story is not, it's a bit lackluster, the game more than makes up with it, with its gameplay loop, because as you can see, all the time the game feels like each room's different. Now I haven't seen this. What is this? Okay, it's my charge. So there was an example of my charge. It seemed a bit OP there. I don't know if that was just because I had a full bar that it used that. I'm not sure. Or like I said, it's just random based. I haven't quite worked that out yet. So in this case, we're going to have to actively engage in combat. Or, because it's only got one attack, I can deal with that without a problem. I'm not, like, required to use my spell. Now, I wonder what will happen if I use it on this kid in this room. As you can see, it disappears after 3 hits, so you've got to try and beat it within that many hits. Now, I might have been able to use my firebombs there, but they do only do 1 damage, so there's that to keep in mind. As you can see with the kobold here, the thing about the kobold is it gains 1 attack based on each block it's adjacent to. So here what we'd want to do is maybe teleport it. That'd be the clever thing to do. Or we could avoid it and try and find the key. So as you can see, we've got quite a complicated series of events here where we're kind of forced to allow to take some damage. Just because, you know, as you could see, everywhere we was going it seemed to be blocked off by an enemy, so it was just more smart to take the damage. As you can see, there'll be these active events throughout the dungeon, which will mean on a certain floor, you know, there's a certain debuff or buff associated with it to kind of keep the gameplay fresh. And that's what I think, the game always keeps you on your toes, and it's a lot more about thinking and a lot less about the natural RPG, let's have the high stats, we'll win then. So it's kept me interested and engaged for that main reason. Now there are some ranged units as well, which can be interesting, you know, because if they're in a certain location where you have not quite got over to yet, you can't click to them straight away. You can't engage in combat, so you'd have to use, you know, a bomb, for instance, where it can be used on any square. So it's you even have to think about, okay, so what should I bring with me to, you know, think about every scenario possible situation. Apparently I can't use that, it would seem. I'm not sure why. Is it related to my charge bar, maybe? I don't know. Maybe oh yeah, I know why. I'm blocked. That's shocking. I forgot all about that already. Okay, so we're going to have to use one of these. We're kind of forced to take damage here. So we're kind of just using these. Apparently we died. I wasn't even keeping an eye on my health. But as you can see, we gain some gold based on what we've collected and what we was left with at the end of the map. So you still feel like you've gained some progress, and now I can work towards my next mansion reward or my next armor reward. So as you can see, there's always a feel of progression with the game. And while you may come across the occasional brick wall, it never feels like I'm being blocked off for, you know, hours on end, you know, as I progress through the game. But obviously it still feels like there's that inherent difficulty with the game. But on a lot of occasions, the difficulty is associated with how you'll approach a floor rather than, you know, a stat-based combat situation. As you've seen, you know, a lot of them situations could have been avoided. You know, maybe I should have done this here. And you're constantly learning more about how each interaction should be played out for a certain situation. But, you know, no matter how much you kind of feel like, oh, I can min-max this as best as possible, because of the inherent minesweeper nature of it, you'll always feel that, you know, there's a level of, I haven't, you know, I've clicked on all these and now I'm kind of forced into a corner to click that square, even though the enemy's going to hit me because of it, in the case of that bomb-based creature. But I mean, that wraps up my kind of critique of it. Like I say, you know, sound design's on point here. I feel, you know, it's subtle. You know, it suits the ambiance. You know, there's some nice combat sounds. And overall, I don't have any complaints in that department. As far as, you know, the aesthetic goes, you know, I kind of dig it. You know, it has that 2D cartoony art style. Reminds me a little bit of Rampage Knights, but it kind of has a crisper feel to it. And like I say, as far as the gameplay goes, you know, it's really up my alley. It feels, you know, on point with what I'd expect from a RPG, even if it is a little, you know, like I say, it feels more like a dungeon crawler than a roguelike, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it is an absolute blast and has kept me playing and wanting that one more try to see if maybe I should try using this, you know, bomb from the salesman or something. And you would never know, because each time, you know, it feels a little, you know, it does have that random generated nature to it, which is nice. But like I say, you know, I think this is, even though the story is, like I say, a little, you know, it's mediocre, you know, there's not much to be garnered from that, you know, I feel it's still an absolute blast, and, you know, you still have that inherent want to continue, even though the story isn't pushing any narrative forward. So, overall, I absolutely recommend this. It will be on my Steam Recommends page. If you haven't followed that, there'll be a link down in the description. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, that's what I want to say. No, appreciate it. And, you know, if you want to like, dislike, go ahead. And other than that, thanks for watching, and goodbye.